and just regular staples that you replenish for the larder. And it was $50. Whoosh, whoosh. Might as well just burn it, flush it down the toilet. Just as quick. It just disappears. Anywho, today is the 14th of May, 2024. Completely arbitrary, of course, as we all know, in the cosmic sense. And you can catch the cave on the air, on the line, all the time, or on your smart device. So they're getting smarter. Just be careful. One day the device is going to eat you. So grab an app to listen anywhere, or listen at home at the greatest table of digital radio. I think I'm joking. If you don't eat your phone before it eats you, you don't know what you're doing. Archives are free, which is good. Like I said, things are tough, but the station is still making you listen for free. They're making it available to you for gratis, for nothing. Just go ahead and consume all the content you want. I was just saying, Dave, that let me finish the intro. We acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we're broadcasting, of course, and for Dave,
it's the Dark and John.
Thank you, sir. For myself, the Dark people, and today was actually sunny but cold, but still a nice day here in Dark country. And we'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. So I was just telling Dave that I'm broadcasting from a secret underground bunker. Well, maybe not so secret, under Denver Airport, whereas you've been chained to a cellar in the Rocky Mountains. They give you fresh...
rubs its lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again.
Fresh water and bread once a week. I get fresh bread today. What?
Bread? Wow.
No, but
I couldn't afford my captors.
I was away on Monday for corporate treat. Long-time listeners of the show know that I'm working in IT and in the corporate world. That's been for a long time. This is meant to go for 3 days, but due to personal circumstances, I could only go the first day. But I'll be honest with you.
You get that. Mm-hmm.
And there might be people listening from my workplace. That's all good. But I tell you, it's hard work going to these things because it's not real. None of it is actually real. I mean, I was talking to real people there. Colleagues and friends of mine over the years.
Mm-hmm.
At dinner, I sat with people I can actually talk to, which is good. And of course you've got friends and all that, but the overall atmosphere is very similar to Office Space. Now, I don't know if you've seen this movie, Office Space. It is scary how accurate that movie is in depicting office interactions and office life. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it is just one of those other puppet shows we all participate in. This one, though, knowingly. So we know that what we do, right? We know if we go into the office or into the workplace normally, we put on a persona, right? We put on a face, and that's maybe not our real selves. And look, most of the time it probably...
You're absolutely right, Mackie. That's right? I noticed that a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It becomes hard, though, sometimes, especially like I tend to be more so in recent times in a pensive mode, thinking and thinking, reflecting maybe more accurately, ruminating, and it's fake. It's a fake environment. You have real interactions. See, this is where it gets tricky, because you do have real interactions. Don't get me wrong, right? You do. With people that are of a mind with you, or at least people that you can relate to, right? But many people you have nothing in common with, and it's a puppet show that we put on for ourselves, Dave. It really is. It's we know what we're doing, most of us, right? And it happens automatically, right? We are aware of it, though. We are, because when you step out of that space, because nobody speaks the truth. That's probably the biggest thing I wanted to share with everybody here. Nobody tells the truth. in these circumstances, in these social environments. No, nobody. Everybody lies all the time in those circumstances. I don't care who you are, where you're sitting, what you're saying, it's a lie, okay? Or at least it's a lie for you. You're not actually believing any of it. It's a complete fabrication for the most part. Right? And that's probably, for me, it's getting harder and harder as I get older. As I get older, it gets harder and harder to stay in it, to smile, to nod, yeah, to rah rah rah, as it were. And you know, it's all nonsense too. You know it. I mean, it's like,
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Well, this is when I came to the realization, the same realization as you, and I'm sure our listeners, there are people that just nodding. They're nodding, having a breakfast coffee, enjoying, Plato's Cave, and going, yeah. What I realized was, if I ran a company, would I do those sales conferences? Would I do the annual getaway to some place that I wouldn't consider just simply a junket, to take the family and spend a week there, only do the thing for a couple of days, with the staff, and then enjoy myself, right? Because it's my holiday that I've just managed to pay for on the company. How would I do that if I were them? And my first thing is, well, I just simply wouldn't. I hear the sales talk, and I just know they're just beating the same drum. It's every year, same drum. It could be a different drum beat, but it doesn't matter. Every year they arbitrarily, just for instance, arbitrarily put up the amount per month that you've got to sell. You've got to sell that. You've got to sell. But no one wants it. Doesn't matter. You've got to sell it. I don't care who you are and who's buying it. But we've got to sell that much to stay alive. Just to stay alive. And the salespeople clamber over themselves to beat each other. And that's their competitive nature, and I appreciate it. But would I? I'm not sure that I would. Remembering that in my family's background, they would buy a property, make it a shop, have no expectation of earning like 1,000x on their investment. They were in it for the long haul. They just sold as, they had product that people wanted to buy, right? So my point here is, every time I see someone take a loan out to buy something and then have to factor in the loan repayments, their entire heavy management structure, get rid of all the workers, and then there's no one left, and you can't take on new work for some reason, it does my head in. I watch it all the time. The first person to get rid of is the person at the front line. How about you make the company, not as tall? Right? Do that. I don't know. Maybe not have such crazy sales targets. Maybe don't put as many people on to start. Right? We all know that expanding a business too quickly just ends up in failure.
See, this is interesting because I've been working in a few places. And in some places, the best place I ever worked in was a fairly small operation. The smaller the operation, the more capable the people and the more invested everybody is. It's just the nature of the beast. I mean, it's just human nature, right? But I've worked for a number of large organizations as well. And I've dealt with large organizations because of partners and such. The funny thing is this, to your point. Nobody thinks about the long-term goals or strategies anymore. Nobody in the industry. Nobody.
It's only to the next financial year end, isn't it? Month.
It's month to month, my friend.
This week.
it's sometimes depending on how bad things are, and that's across all major corporations, all of them, every last one. There's not a corporation that doesn't operate this way in the world, and governments in fact operate this way as well, from election to election. It's like
that's right.
From opinion poll to
Very
opinion
similar.
poll. Instant gratification. We're living in a throwaway society, right? We're living in a just-in-time society as well, and so our thinking has changed. And it seems that nobody, apart from autocratic governments, are making long-term plans. Nobody's making long-term plans. I mean, not really, right? I mean, look at things that used to happen in the world, like the building of the Hoover Dam, right? The Snowy Mountain scheme in Australia is a good example. The only places that have successful long-term projects, right, that are initiated by government, are places that have an autocratic government that stays in power over long periods of time. The only other long-term successful projects you see are from corporations, mining organizations, for example.
Yeah,
I mean, they plan decades ahead, right? For example, or logging operations, or anything that requires long-term planning, corporations can do it. Even space travel, which is a decades-long pursuit, has now been taken on by the private sector. So, governments, democratically elected governments that have a tenure of, between 4 and 8 years on average, I want to say, right? I mean, some are longer, some are shorter, but 4 to 8 years. You have to ask yourself now this: what can you achieve? If you've got a nation of millions of people, what can you really achieve in 4 to 8 years? Well, the answer is nothing.
That's right.
Nothing. You can't do anything that's meaningful, because once you get out of power, maybe what you initiated will be kicked out again. Right?
All you'll get done is a feasibility study. And that'll cost you like a tenth of the overall project cost. And then whatever the price was originally that got approved to do the feasibility study will have increased maybe a third to a half again.
Yeah.
And the next time you get around to be able, then everyone goes, "Oh, why is it so expensive? Well, we should have done it before."
We found it all on the feasibility, and that's the reason, though, Dave. And this is a very good insight. That's the reason in government in Australia, other governments. Look, I don't know because I haven't done the research, but I know in Australia we have a lot of consultants, a lot.
Yeah.
And we know this because fairly recently, there was a bit of a scandal on how information that was meant to be confidential was shared inappropriately, and some might say criminally.
With the consultancy, yes.
Yeah. And to take advantage of certain government policies that were coming through that, these consultants took advantage of and let clients know, et cetera, et cetera. But, that's neither here nor there. I'm not here to talk about that. What I'm talking about is the prevalence of consultants within the federal and even state government. And not even local government. The reason they do that is because consultants can give you your answers quickly. They will give you the answer you want to hear very, very quickly.
The one you want to hear, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though, right?
Oh,
I mean,
totally.
we had 15 years ago. Oh, geez. Yeah, 15 years ago. Oh, my goodness. The company I worked for was in big trouble. I mean, we were in really bad shape. And they brought in a fairly senior guy, a senior CEO, had been at IBM. And he took some drastic measures, right? And he brought in a consulting group. And he said, look, this is what we have to do. He was given a target of savings, had to also save the company, et cetera, et cetera. So he did all the right things for what he had to do. Yeah. It was harsh, and I want to say tens of thousands of people lost their job globally, right?
Sure.
That's about right, actually. Yeah. But it saved the company. The actions he took did save the company, and several, actually probably a couple 100,000 people kept their job. Okay. So,
was that a fellow that gave pay rises only to the frontline staff?
No, that was the.
Oh, that was the next one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that those kinds of things are rare. There's kind of decisive action these days, right?
Yeah.
And he had consultants in, but he told the consultants, "I need you to find me the cost. I need to find the cost that I can take out to the tune of several $billion."
Yeah. So ignore all the reporting. Go and find the actual costs. Yeah.
100%. And the government is similarly instructing, I would imagine,
Yeah,
the consultants they're hiring, look, this is the outcome we need to get to.
that's
Because
right.
no one hires a consultant for truth finding. Nobody. Everybody has an opinion of where we should be, right?
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And what you're looking for is an echo chamber, right? Self-fulfilling prophecy, okay? Confirmation bias, all of that stuff. That's what we're looking for. And that's why we hire consultants.
I'd make a CosRev mirror consultant.
You sure?
They can't
Turn
escape
back in time and tell me the same thing yesterday.
the
Yes.
spiral. They
Yes,
can't
sir.
get out of the spiral. There you go.
But it's true. It is true. And so that's what they get. So they say, look, this is what we have to do. I need you to enable me. So I need you to find me the costs I can save. And it's very clinical. If any of you have ever been part of a corporation, part of a redundancy, like or you were let go, or maybe you had to execute against it, maybe you had to let people go, right? It is very clinical. It's not personal at all.
No, that's right.
Really, there's certain parameters that are being looked at, and they're always different. They're changing from situation to situation, and whatever the parameters are, that's what has to happen. And sometimes permanent staff need to go. Sometimes contractors have to go first. I mean, it all depends on what you're trying to do, right? And that's important. It's a purely financial activity. It has nothing to do with what you actually do as a business. That's actually irrelevant. You could be baking bread, making pink ribbons, or be in IT. It makes no difference.
Yeah.
The activities are completely divorced from what it is that you actually do. But we have got this mindset now where we bring consultants in, even like I said, in government, because they get us to an outcome quicker, and we can then point to those people and say, oh no, we got the experts. To your point earlier, Dave, we've done a feasibility study. Oh yeah, who was done by? Oh, these guys. Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Those consultants. Well, they know what they're doing, so it must be right.
That's right.
But nothing comes of it. The only thing that you ever get is the consultancy. And when you do have an activity, right, like Robodebt, for example, or the submarine disaster, you know there were no consultants involved. Because
that's right.
If there had been, they would have pointed at the consultants and said it's their fault, right? That didn't happen. And in Australia, those were massive scandals. So, in my mind, the submarine thing is a scandal, I think.
Just for those people who don't know, we made arrangements with France, wasn't it, to build submarines. Yes. The thing is that their catalogue... Yeah. Well, let's start with what was in the catalogue. The catalogue contained nuclear-powered submarines. And our policy was no nuclear-powered submarines. Yes. And they said, well, we can modify the designs to install diesel-powered motors in there. They'll be considerably noisier, but hey, what's a submarine amongst friends? So we had experience with some noisy submarines in the past, but I'll leave that alone. And so the French said, yeah, cool, well, it's going to cost this much. And our government went, sure, wow, why not? Now, we joined AUKUS, and we had access to American technology and American submarine design and nuclear submarines, which they recommended. And we went, well, what kind of submarines are you buying? Oh, we're buying some diesel-powered, World War II? What? Why don't you come into the real world? Oh, we can't have them. All right, we'll ask the people. They put some, we're going to buy nuclear submarines. No one cared. Oh, in fact, one country cared a lot. China didn't like it because they just presumed that we're going to have nuclear-powered subs with nuclear missiles. Well, thin edge of the wedge, sure, and I agree with them. Probably will at some point. But this is the thing. The exit, like the crippling balloon payment, the exit fee out of that France contract was nearly the cost of the submarines. It was insane. And then they hated on us.
It was money well spent.
And they hated on us so bad because we just reneged on a deal. Right?
Yes. Oh yes. Oh, it was embarrassing actually, to be honest.
So now we're pre-buying off the plan, which is the worst thing you should ever do. Never do that. Never buy off plan. because anything can happen between now and when it's delivered, and you've already paid the money. So we're due the first submarine in more than a decade from now, and I think now we've decided, well, okay, well, since you're backed up, US, we'll start building the submarines. And then we ended up with a facepalm, because we could have built the first lot. We could have already had submarines in the water.
Oh, absolutely.
From the amount of time it was for the original decision, then to change it, renege, and then enter into a brand new agreement. I mean, are we ever going to get submarines? I don't know.
Well, look, honestly, because this is. I know this is. It sounds like it's a satire or it's funny, but we are not going to get submarines until maybe 10, 12 years from now.
Oh, that's right.
And
the last one was 2050, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you think to yourself, excuse me? So, just to put this whole AUKUS thing into perspective, so these three Anglo-Saxon dominated countries, English-speaking countries, decide to get together, even though they're across the world, right? Separated by oceans, no less, and decide to have a pact. Right, okay, we have a pact now, wonderful. What does that mean? Well, we are all supporting each other, and the Americans are going to give us, Australians that is, they're going to give us nuclear submarine technology. All right, great. So, but it wasn't even, see, this is the thing, it wasn't a snub against non-white people, because the French are white. This was a snub against non-English speaking people, right? All over the world. Okay, and we're rubbing the Chinese in our dog poo here and saying, haha, see what we're going to, in 20 years' time, we're going to have submarines. Haha. It's like, okay, sure. But it was such a, now Canada, there's this talk of Canada coming into the next phase of AUKUS.
India.
Yeah, look, I'm okay with that. You know, that's getting a bit more interesting. But the initial AUKUS, and the funniest thing of the whole AUKUS debacle, the submarine debacle, wasn't the submarines. It wasn't that it was like a racist colonial.
Oh, here we go. I love
previous
this
times.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is that Joe Biden
introducing the members live on television.
Yeah, he couldn't remember his name. He couldn't remember our prime minister. He couldn't. What? He know the English guy or whoever it was at the time, right? I can't remember now.
Yeah, whatever.
But he could not remember. Oh, it was of course it was Blondie.
Oh yes, the one who looks like Einstein with straight hair.
Boris Johnson. That's who it was.
That's the one.
But
he likes to party during COVID, you know.
Yeah, the Australian guy, the Australian Prime Minister. You know that guy. It's like, what?
Yeah, names the other one by name, and this one's just the guy from Australia. That's right.
But can you imagine? Like, there are only 3 people.
There's only 3.
And one out of, in fact, he knows his own name, I'm sure, right? So
well,
he only has to remember 2.
Questionable as time goes on, but sure.
And it was like a 50-50. Okay, he got it. He couldn't, right? He couldn't.
That's right.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think that's just gold.
If he even just said ScoMo, that would have been enough. Or you there with all the jobs.
You know, what's his name for marketing? You know,
that's right.
Scotty for marketing. That would be.
Yeah.
Because everybody would have known what he's talking about, right? But no, it's. I don't know. All I can say is it was a disaster, but these things. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because there were no consultants involved there. But this is something we try to do long term. This is like a long term thing we think we try our hand at. Complete disaster, complete failure on every front, right?
Well, we had a lot of money to spend because of that COVID thing we borrowed against. Created some wealth there, and $1 trillion, and then we ended up not really spending much of it. So now the money is burning a hole in our pocket. We got to buy something. What can we buy?
We're going to buy something. Come on.
We already paid for the submarines, didn't we?
You're right, though. It's burning a hole in
Yeah. It's like giving a kid $50 to go into a store that sells lollies. Oh, like sweets, and expect some change. That's hilarious. They will buy everything, even if they don't like it. Because that money's, I'm going to spend it.
It's all I can say is we can no longer engage on a governmental basis in long-term projects. We just can't. The only people that can are autocratic regimes and corporations. That's it. No one else can. And that's the truth. But I didn't realize, Dave, and I was seriously thinking about retiring, and then saying I can't anymore. I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. But of course, you get, then you realize, look, I still got bills to pay, etc., etc.
Yeah, you breathed in again and decided to stay. I get it.
Yeah, look, I could retire. I wouldn't be rich retiring,
Mm-hmm.
but I could live. You know what I mean? I could live if I retired. But that's not something you don't want to just live, right? You want to.
I guess what I found
enjoy
out,
life and go on.
that America doesn't have long service leave.
No, it doesn't. No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No. Completely alien concept. And America is funny. For all its talk about freedom and liberty and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it has the worst out in the first world. I'm talking about the first world. It's got the worst labor laws in the first world.
Yeah.
The worst. 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
holiday. A lot of public holidays, sure enough. Yes, that's true. There's no redundancy period. Now, what do we mean by service period here? So what Dave is talking about is like in Australia, for example, the governmental standard is that if you're fired, but not for cause, but if you're fired for restructure or whatever, right? Then the company has to pay you a certain amount of money, like a severance payment. And the severance payment, the minimum calculation is 2 weeks per year of service. And that usually is kept at 15 or 20 years. Other companies have different rules, a lot more generous than that. In Singapore, the service that you get paid out is 1 month per year of service, not capped.
Yeah.
That's the standard, for example. In America, nah. I think it's a 2 week notice that you get in some places, and pretty much once you're fired, goodbye, off you go, everything stops. So if your health insurance is running through the company,
dental and whatever, mm-hmm.
If your car lease is running through the company,
Mm-hmm.
all of that gone. And that's just the way it is in America, and you but it explains so much. I worked a lot with Americans, a lot, and I reported into America for a long time as well, which meant I was up at 3 and 4 a.m. listening to calls.
That's right.
But they would, as a general rule, there were exceptions, but as a general rule, they would not complain. Or if they complained, they wouldn't complain loudly, right? And they would just make it work. And I'll give you a simple example. So I had some issues making offshore work for me. I couldn't get the stuff I wanted done from an offshore perspective, right? And that means like anywhere else but Australia. So we had offshore people, and I couldn't get the same kind of stuff. So I wasn't pushing my numbers. I was the lowest in percentage of offshoring compared to my global colleagues. So I spoke to my American colleagues and asked them, "How do you make it work? I'm wrecking my brain. I just can't make it work. I just don't get the output I need, And they said to me, "Well, neither do we." What? I said, "What?" Well, you can't, because it just won't work. But you said you do. Yeah, well, of course we do, because that's the corporate policy. If I don't do it, they find someone else who will. So what actually used to happen was this: they used to not get the work done offshore, and whatever they didn't get done offshore, they did it onshore. They just put in extra hours.
Yeah.
So they did more work, right? Which was unpaid.
To make
so the
it
company
work.
didn't care.
Yeah, but didn't tell anyone.
Make it work. That was the attitude. And for me, of course, no, I'm not going to make it work if it doesn't work. It's stupid. It just doesn't. I guess it's the Australian attitude, right? It just doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work. Well, if it doesn't work, then we can't do it, right? So I actually did the analysis. I did the analysis, offshore, onshore cost, etc., a whole bunch of stuff, productivity, and it was a beautiful spreadsheet, Dave. It was a beautiful spreadsheet. I sent it to my boss, and he didn't respond. I mean, okay. I followed up, and he said, Yeah, Mackie, yeah. Oh, well, what about the stuff I sent you? He goes, yeah, we're not going to look at that, Mackie. So just don't send it anyway. Just let it just stay with me. I won't mention it to anyone. It's all good.
Yeah, right.
And fair enough, right? Now I get it, though, because in America, you can just get fired. Just like that.
Yeah.
And I just want to shout out to the chat room. Thank you, Flea. Some great comments, and I agree. Lawrence. Now, the movie Office Space has a character called Lawrence, who's a construction worker, and he's the neighbor of the main protagonist. Mm-hmm. And I agree. He's the only guy that has, I guess, any life sense. Right? He's the only one that is sensible. The other characters, maybe the protagonist accepts it because he changes his ways, but the others, they're all sort of caught in this office world, right? And it's a really, look, if you haven't seen the movie, it is a fantastic study of what corporate life actually is like. That is the truth. And you're right, Flea. The goal is to earn money. Number one goal, right? That's it. Why? Well, because that's what it is. Okay.
Well, we live in the money go round. It's like a merry-go-round, right?
Yeah, it's wrong. I mean, my kids ask me, especially my eldest daughter, "Do you like your job? Are you happy?" I said, "Well, I'm not terribly upset or sad, right? I mean, it's okay work for what I do. And would I do it if I didn't get paid? No, I wouldn't. I tell her, I would not. So that's why I said to her, look, study hard, right? This is the system we're in, right? Study hard, get yourselves in a position where you can make choices in life." She's only 10 years old. But I said to her, if you can make choices and you can organize your life in a way that you want, you're already winning. Okay?
That's right.
If you can pick and choose as to what you want to do for a living, awesome. If you can make a good living, even better for you. But this is the system we're in. Can we change the system? Well, I'm hoping it will change. I'm hoping there's going to be something that's going to change it at some point, as long as people are aware of it, and you are now aware of it. I know you're only 10 years old, but the only thing I can give her is the ability to make the best choice for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't give her anything else. I want her to be able, and all my kids for that matter, to be able to make choices that will leave them in a state of at least contentment, if not happiness. Because you look around, man, and especially now with the cost of living crisis, and this is really, I guess, where we're going with this. A lot of people are out of choices, Dave.
Oh, I know. I'm competing against those same people for jobs. And it's getting worse.
It is.
Yeah. Do you know what my father said? He said to me when I was, I don't know, I hadn't left school yet, and I think we were talking about work or something, because he was a police officer, so he couldn't talk very much about what he did, but sometimes after a couple of beers he might open up, and he goes, "Do you know what? Do you know what you got to do?" I said, "No." Right? The lawns? I don't know what. And he goes, "You got to find what you're good at, and then find someone to pay you to do that. Because then you'll be happy. You'll only be happy, truly happy inside you, when you're doing something you actually like to do, and you find someone to pay you to do it."
Yeah.
And I did that with IT support. That was where I was just totally happy with that.
Me too.
It almost felt like I shouldn't charge them, because I was I enjoyed fixing computers, right?
But you know, I feel the same way, and Dave and I actually worked in the same team for a time.
That's how we met.
And I felt the same way, because I had always wanted to work with smart people, people that I had something in common with, I could talk to, etc. Right? Mm-hmm. And when I say smart, I don't mean like, super intelligent. I just mean people that are aware, can talk about the world, and don't run out of things to say after talking about the weather. And I did find that in IT. I found people on the spectrum. I found people, but they were very interesting in what they knew, and then broad interests as well. And I met a lot of good people, and it was fun working with those people. It was fun fixing things. I enjoyed, like, I didn't get paid a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't, but the work was satisfying because, okay, machine is broken. You do what you can to get it back up and running, or maybe another problem, maybe some network issue. I mean, who knows? But whatever the IT issue was, if you couldn't fix it, you could go to the team and we'd all pull together and a solution would come along. And it was very satisfying.
Because that break fix has a solution, and solving something is extremely pleasurable.
It is.
It's satisfying to accomplish something. It's, like if you make a wonderful spreadsheet, which I know I've done too, with lookup tables and just pastable data into other tabs, right? And it updates every month, whatever, right? As long as no one changed anything. I love doing that too. But there's nothing like break fix. My friends called me up the other day and go, our daughter's machine isn't working really well. I go, oh cool, I'll come around and have a look. I put a new video card in it for free. I brought it back to my place and fixed up all these problems that were there, and then took it back, and they're just gone, I want to pay. And I go, no, I really enjoyed doing it. How long did you spend on it? Oh, probably about 5 hours, actually, to be honest with you. There's so much I had to research and get done, but you know what? I love doing that.
Mm.
It was grand. I can't explain it any other way. Because
it was meaningful. You had what you did had meaning.
Mm.
It's not like you're working into oblivion. But what I mean by that is what you do doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It had to, and this immediate satisfaction of meaningful work is really what a lot of us are craving. We want to have meaningful work. You know what I mean? We really do. It's I guess ultimately it's the one thing that most of us don't have. Right? That's why there's so much unhappiness in the workplace. We try to create this meaning, and some people are better at doing that than others, but for the most part, meaning escapes us, because the stuff we do, does it help anyone? Does it make the world better? The happiest I was, Dave. Mm-hmm. This is the happiest I was. Now I like IT, but the happiest I was when I did physical work.
Yeah.
And I mean, working on the building site, doing yard work,
mm-hmm.
Kind of work while I was sweating, and I was exhausted at the end of the day. But that is such a satisfying feeling. In the movie Bruce Almighty.
Oh, I love Bruce.
And Morgan. Yeah, me too. Morgan Freeman plays God, or for all intents and purposes, he plays God. And he says, some of the, because he actually he's cleaning the floor when Jim Carrey comes into the warehouse, and he's cleaning the floor, and he says, so Jim Carrey says something I think derogatory about manual work, but he says some of the happiest people in the world, Morgan Freeman in his character says, some of the happiest worlds stink to high heaven when they come home at night. And I think that's absolutely true. I mean, of course, hard physical labor, you can only do for a limited number of years. I understand that. But I'll be honest with you, I did feel very, very happy having finished hard days of labor. Right? Hard days work of labor. Not sitting in an office or something easy. Hard labor I found very satisfying.
It certainly is, because once again you have a tangible outcome. You've done something, you've changed something, whatever it happens to be, it's there. But with all of the because it's Plato's Cave, with all of the shedding of staff and the contraction of company sizes right now, just trying to stay afloat. And the budget was released today, which was interesting. All I see is yet again this widening of the gap. Coring the middle class, coring it. I used to watch this happen as a company I used to work for would just buy another company and send me in to virtualize all the servers on a Friday afternoon, and then mount them all over the weekend and have them still running, and then the CEOs would get a sweet deal and stay on for 18 months, 2 years or 3 years in the purchase of the company, and everyone else would be gone. Because there's no need to have two lots of payroll. There's no reason to have two mail room, MAIL room employees, right? And I would walk in on the Friday to virtualize everything, and just look around and go, and I mean, I'm just seeing, the equivalent of tombstones everywhere, because they're not going to be there. Those roles won't be there on the Monday. And then HR turns up on the Monday and with a representative, and they just hand out all of the notices, right?
Yeah.
Because they've been restructured out. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I even saw someone get, I think I've mentioned this already, but called back from an Italian skiing holiday back to the office so they could be handed their notice.
I've heard of cases where there was a corporate meet in a city in the States, and they had to fly in. This person, I think, flew in from overseas or whatever.
Wow.
And they had to make their own way home. Oh yeah. There was a case in Singapore. This actually happened. This was in the paper. Some years ago. There was a fire alarm in an office building. Several thousand employees come out, and on the way back in, only half the tags are working. Of course, what happened is that the other, the people that had the non-working tags were no longer employed.
Oh wow!
And couldn't get back in even get their stuff. No, this actually happened.
That's rotten.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
But again, the thing is, look, I've made people redundant, many people, because I've been a manager for a long time, and there's only one rule. You have to remember you're talking to a human being. Right?
That's right.
And I don't care if they expect it or didn't expect it, or if they wanted it or didn't want it. It doesn't matter. There will always be shock.
Oh yeah.
And you need to respect that.
And now, even on your side, it's heartbreaking to do it to some people.
Well,
are really good people.
Of course, absolutely. Right. And people you may be working with for years, potentially. But ultimately, it gets done. It gets done, and they usually get a good payout in Australia, at least. But it's not easy, right? But you have to just be honest and be mindful of their feelings.
Yeah.
And a lot of senior guys shy away from confrontation like that. A lot.
I know some people that have taken holidays when they know the announcements are going to be made.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to be
not
confronting
even in the office
anything.
or in the country.
Yeah. And that, of course, is, in my opinion, is cowardice. If you get paid a certain amount of money, my expectation is that you, and that's going to sound terribly sexist, but you got to man up. Okay? You got to man up.
You've got to be there. You've got to be present in your own life, right? And so,
I think so.
It wouldn't hurt just to put a do on, right? And thank them. Right?
That's good.
It's
That's
not
good.
personal, It's not a personal thing. I'm not trying to get rid of you because I think you're awful. I actually like you guys. Unfortunately, with our restructuring has meant that your roles aren't available anymore.
Yeah.
So, look, we do wish you good luck. and stay in touch, because we don't hate on you. And but have you seen Utopia, Mickey?
No. I've seen
Rob
parts
Sitch.
of it, but it looked really interesting.
It hurts to watch it because it's so close to Australian government agency employment. It's very funny, and Rob Sitch does a really good job. But he had HR in his office while he was to write on the card for the person that they just made redundant. And you've been a tremendous employee. Blah blah. We can't say that because they could want to stay. We don't want them to stay. So he said, you've been employed with us for 5 years. That was it. So it turned a statement, a whole paragraph full of heartfelt, sorrow and times are going to be hard, but it's going to be good. You're going to get through this. You'll find another job. And I'm sorry, our restructure meant we had to let you go. But he couldn't say any of that. And in the end, it was just, a matter of fact recognition as they had work for them. That's it. HR.
Yeah.
HR was, it hardened the blow. They didn't soften it. It's very funny. My wife can't watch it because it's too close to the places she's worked before.
But see, that's the thing. I mean, when you're being confronted with reality in a, I guess, entertainment kind of environment. I had a similar experience with some of the things I watch, or even a book I read, where you go, I can't. This is too close to home. This is too real, right? Which is, of course, a credit to the person that put it together, because it is so impactful.
Yeah, but, I'm looking at you, Whitley Strieber.
Yeah, that's right. That was
one of the hardest reads for me.
Yeah. Did you watch the movie?
Oh yeah, I saw the movie. Yeah, I think they did a reasonable job.
Yeah.
A reasonable job. Because Christopher Walken's in it. It's a great movie. But it was so close. So the reading of the book, my mum and I stood motionless, staring at the book display of Communion, and I looked at her as tears streaming down my face looking at it, and she was doing the same thing. And it wasn't tears of joy. This was like those eyes looking back out of that cover was just crazy. So good on you, Whitley. You did bring something out, and it was good to have been able to share an experience with my late mother, who wrote a book, by the way, and I've just recently self-published it for my late mother. So I'm
just mention the title, brother.
Yeah, the title is called The House with Three Doors, and I've just thrown it into the chat room. It is I'm MA 15 plus or whatever, 18. I don't know what it is. It's a bit raunchy to start, but then it's all about action, mystery, missing money, death, kind of goes across the planet. It's pretty good. It's kind of like if James Bond was an investigator, but it's not James Bond.
Yeah.
And so I've shared it out there. There's a hardcover and a paperback, and there's a Kindle version if you want.
Nice.
But my little mom, she wrote the book, and it's really hard to believe that she could even think those thoughts.
Well,
there's torture and killing and all sorts of things in it.
We confront. This is the funny thing, we confront the humanity of our parents. As your child, for the longest time, your parents are your parents, and in many ways they are completely removed from a normal human experience because they're your parents.
They're not allowed to have
when
any
you
of
realize,
those emotions and feelings and thoughts. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Whereas once you realize, and I did realize this as I was growing up, that my parents are actually people. You know, for me, it was an amazing insight into the world that my parents are people. And all of a sudden, I was very angry when I was younger, right? And fearful and many things, many emotions, many emotions. But when I realized that my parents are also people with the same kinds of thoughts and wants and needs and foibles that I had, right? It was like it really felt like the blindness had been taken off my eyes, at least for that aspect of my life. Because before that, they were just my parents, like this abstract entity that just that somehow makes my bed and gives me food. I was fairly young when I realized that my parents are people. But they're people, right? It was. I remember this feeling. It's similar to the feeling I had under the table. Remember when I had the epiphany?
Yeah.
And everything made sense.
Yes.
And the only thing I remember is that everything made sense. I remember nothing else. And I really miss that feeling, Dave. Sorry. Oh, the feeling I still have, what I miss is the insight, right? Because there was an insight there, and it left me very happy, euphoric almost.
Yeah.
Because my thought was, and I was young. It was before my brother was born, so I was at the oldest. I was 6 or 7, probably younger. And I was under my grandparents' kitchen table, and that's when the universe, told me what's what. Right, very strange.
I was once.
But
I was sitting in a beanbag, and I had the same experience.
Right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's what draws us together. And look, the funny thing in the world is that I have found that you're drawn to people that have similar experiences to you. They might not be the same as you, and I would never say that I hang out with people that are the same as me, because that's not really possible.
No.
But similar interests, similar experiences, similar insights. And unfortunately, though, there aren't that many with insights like that.
How is that crazy revelation about nosebleeds? Isn't that nuts?
That really
discovered in the last year and a bit, right?
Yeah, that actually took me back a bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was thinking, but how come we never discussed this? We've known each other since 2000 and 2001, somewhere.
Yep.
And so sorry. Quick background in case you're not
1 minute.
A frequent listener. Go on.
1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute. Oh, geez, there's no background far out. We'll talk about it again on Thursday. Suffice it to say that both Dave and I suffered from congenital nosebleeds, which I have passed on to my eldest daughter, which my father passed on to me. And for all intents and purposes, his father probably passed on to him.
Leave your own boy.
Yeah, it's a vein, in my case, inside my nose, which was the culprit.
Yep.
Same for my daughter. And I can't believe that we never discussed it until recently, Dave and I. And that was, for me, that was a sliding experience. Okay, there's the music. This has been Platos Cave. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you in the chat. Some really great comments. Flea, especially. Flea, you've been really very verbose today. So thank you for listening. Don't go anywhere. I'm sure something is going to happen. And